right, so Willow Cat is going to be helping us out here doing this little mini yoga practice that will be good for midday after you've been doing a lot of sitting. So what we're going to be really doing is working on both stretching and strengthening the muscles that you are feeling some tension in after you've been sitting for a long period of time. So first thing we're going to do, first today, with everything that we're doing, you don't need any special props or anything, just your mat. So we are going to start in child's pose today. So what I'd like you to do for child's pose is try to bring your big toes to touch, widen your knees so that they're a little bit wider than where your hips are, and then sit your hips back over your heels. If you can touch your sit bones to where your heels are, awesome. If not, just effort to bring them there, all right? The idea of child's pose is to get that tailbone kind of anchored down by your heels and then lengthen through your torso. So imagining the crown of your head really reaching toward the top of the mat here. If you feel comfortable bringing that forehead all the way down to the mat, if that doesn't quite feel comfortable yet, maybe bringing your hands into a little pillow and bringing your forehead down to your hands. Arriving here by just giving yourself 3 breaths to just kind of focus your intention here. You're thinking about your body, you're tuning into how things feel, and we're really listening. We're asking that we just get a little bit of relief here, not that we're getting a giant stretch, not that anything else is going on, okay? Once you feel comfortable in the child's pose, see if you can lengthen those arms nice and long out ahead of you. Forehead comes down to the mat. Lengthening your arms at the same time as you're pressing your hips back towards your heels. Big breath in here. Take a nice deep breath out. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale in through your nose. Exhale with an open mouth. Inhale through your nose 1 more time. Exhale through your mouth like you're fogging a mirror. Beautiful. If you feel comfortable, close your mouth off now. And just begin to inhale through your nose. And then exhale through your nose. Maybe lifting your forehead up, looking at your hands, and then crawling both of your hands off to the right side of your mat. Not super far. Maybe your left hand even stays on the mat, just bringing that right hand off the mat and still efforting to bring that left hip back toward that left heel. Bring your forehead down. Feel a nice, delicious little side body opening here. Big breath in here. Feel those ribs expand as you breathe in. Exhale. Feel them knit back together. Walk your hands back through center. Come over to the opposite side. Left hand comes off the left side of the mat. Right hip presses back toward that right heel. We breathe in here, expanding through our ribs. We exhale here. Bring those hands back through center. And then go ahead and walk your hands right underneath where your shoulders are, and we're going to come up to a tabletop position. So shifting everything, making sure that those hands are underneath your elbows, underneath those shoulders. Knees are underneath your hips here, so they're right underneath that hips. All right, cool. From here, we're just going to take a little cat-cow, tuck our toes. We're going to drop our belly. We're going to allow our shoulders to kind of soften, our chest can kind of melt down toward the mat. And we're going to look up at the sky, take a nice deep breath in here. And then as you exhale, round your spine, straighten your elbows, chin comes to your chest, tops of the feet press into the mat. Good, almost like you're hollowing yourself out here. Inhale, we drop the belly, soften the elbows, look up at the sky. Big breath in. As you exhale, hollow yourself out here. All of these are just suggestions. If anything is not feeling good or right, go ahead and skip it. Do something different that did feel good or right. Child's pose is always there for you. So is, well, I'm going to give you an option that is different than child's pose for rest, which is to sit in a butterfly position with your feet, knees out to the side, and allow yourself to roll back with your legs splayed out and your hands at your belly. This is kind of like the anti-seated pose. So trying to do this instead of curling up into a ball might feel a little bit more relieving in the midst of this practice. All right, so we are coming back to our tabletop position, and we're gonna start to turn on some muscles here. So I want you to reach your right leg nice and long behind you. Good. And then I want you to bend that right knee so that right foot is pressing up toward the sky. And we're gonna pulse it up for 5, for 4, nice and slow like this. For 3, just that hip and leg are moving. For 2, for 1, reach that that right leg nice and long, and then cross it over your left side. So if you look over your left shoulder, you'll be able to see that right foot. Okay? This, I'm just kind of, I have my tiptoes braced on the earth here, and I'm looking over that shoulder. This is just opening up that side body a little bit more. We're gonna extend that right leg nice and long again, and then bring it back to tabletop. Stand up for a moment. Roll out those wrists if that feels like you need to do that, and then let's come back down. Okay? Same thing, opposite side. Left leg goes nice and long. Go ahead and look underneath you. Make sure your toes are dialed down toward the floor while we're doing this nice long hold. Then bend that knee, and that heel is going to press up toward the sky again for 5, for 4, for 3, 2, 1, reach that left leg nice and long, cross that left foot with that nice straight leg over to the right side and look over your right shoulder. Maybe it feels good to kind of hinge forward and back here. Go ahead, do that. If it doesn't, you don't have to. And then we'll extend that left leg nice and long and deliberately place it back down. We're gonna come up to our high knees or a high kneel here. Beautiful. And I want you to imagine we're gonna do a little bit of what's called a camel pose. For this, I want you to imagine you have a tail. If you had a tail, it would be pointing straight down at the floor. So we're gonna tuck our booty under just a little bit, and that's gonna force our hip bones forward. I want you to tuck your toes underneath. That's gonna help support you here. Imagine that you're wearing jeans and you're gonna put your hands into your back jean pockets. Then you're gonna squeeze your shoulders together or your elbows together, so it's gonna open up your chest. And then imagine that you're entering a room, hips first. Press your hands into the back of your hips and press those hips forward. As you're doing this, you're looking straight ahead, giving yourself a little bit of a double chin so that those hips can still stay the first part of you that would enter a room. Reverse this by coming out of it, just coming back up to a high kneel. Untuck those toes and sit back down. Good. Relax those arms. Shake everything out. We did that. I'm just going through my list here. Do I want to do anything before I have you turn over? No. Okay. So from here, we are going to come into what's called a Sphinx pose. So you're going to bring your forearms down. Your knees are down. And you're going to drop your hips down to the earth. So I explain a lot of things like I've been at the beach. So this is like I'm at the beach and I'm reading a book, right? We're up on our, and if we had a book right in front of us, it would be nice and easy to read it, okay? So if we're at the beach and we're reading a book, what I want your lower body to do is I want your big toes to touch. I want those big toes to touch and then the tops of the feet to press into the mat. That's gonna lift up your knees. They're gonna stop touching the mat probably, and your thighs are really gonna engage. That's also gonna start to push your pelvis down into the mat. And imagine that tail again. That tail is pointing back down at our heels, all right? So lower body is super engaged here. I want to imagine that your belly button is pulling up towards your spine and that there's a string being drawn up from the crown of your head to the sky. So that almost like you're a puppet being drawn up. Your chest is imagining that it's pulling through your arms here, and we are just pausing in this beautiful Sphinx pose. Everything's engaged. We're holding here for 5, for 4, for 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and lower your upper body down to the mat. Make a nice little pillow with your hands, and then bring your forehead or your cheek down to the mat. Bend your knees and allow them to windshield wiper side to side. Oh, that feels so nice. All right, we're gonna do this, that Sphinx pose one more time, but with a modification. All right, so coming back up through Sphinx pose, upper body gets set up like we're reading a book at the beach. Lower body, big toes touch. Tops of the feet press into the mat. Engage that booty so that that tail is pointing down at your heels. Belly button towards your spine. Everything in your crown is nice and long. Beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're really going to kind of focus on one hip at a time. So I want you to bring your right knee out to the side so that it makes a nice 90-degree angle with your torso. Lines up a little high. There we go. And my knee is at a 90-degree angle as well. The rest of my body stays exactly the same. I am in Sphinx pose. The top of my left foot is pressing into the mat. That is gonna lift my knee up. It's gonna engage my quad. It's really gonna turn on all those muscles that help to support us when we're in sitting, but we're stretching them at the same time as we're turning them on. Holding here for 3, 2, 1. Bring that right leg back through center and bring the left leg out to the side. Switching sides. Make sure that that's at a 90-degree angle from your hip out. That knee is at a 90-degree angle as well. Pressing the top of that right foot into the mat to lift that right knee. Hold for 3. Hold for 2. And 1. Reach that left leg nice and long behind you. Stay with me. See if you can press into your elbows. I want you to engage your belly button back to your spine. Keep your knees on the earth and see if you can hollow your torso here. Good, almost like you're making a little bridge. And then allow that torso to relax down toward the floor. One more time like that. Let's make a nice little bridge. Torso, belly button back to your spine. And then go ahead and crawl yourself into a tabletop position again. Beautiful. We are going to, from tabletop, squat ourselves in the center of our mat. Reach our hands behind us. And we're going to come into what's called a reverse tabletop. So our hands come behind us. Our feet come right underneath our knees. Hands underneath shoulders, and we lift our hips to the sky here. I'm looking down at my pelvis as I'm doing this, but it might feel nice and good to relax your head and neck back. If it does, go for it. If it doesn't, you can relax it. To come out of this reverse tabletop, drop your hips to the floor first, sit yourself up, and then let your neck be the last thing that comes up. Pausing here for a moment. We're going to do 2 more things, and then we're going to be at the end of this little practice here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a bridge pose. We're going to roll ourselves down to the mat. I want you to bring those feet as close to your, well, decently close from your glutes. So maybe a couple inches away, all right? They're just grazing my middle finger, and my heels are grazing my middle finger here. I want you to first go ahead and see if you can grab onto the sides of your mat and like hold on. I want you to bring your arms nice and straight so that they're pressed
pressing back into the mat and hold on to the mat, right? And then flatten your low back out as much as you can. So like there's no curve under your low back right now. Belly button comes back to your spine, and then lift your hips to the sky, keeping everything in your upper body the same. Now, imagine that you have something between your knees that you're trying to squeeze together. Gently engage there. And we're pressing through all four corners of our feet, nice and even. We're gonna hold this for 10, for 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brings those hips down to the earth. Oh, good. Release your mat. Go ahead and draw those knees into your chest. Just give yourself a nice little hug here. Maybe drawing your chin to your chest as well, so you're coming into a ball. And then bring those feet back down to the mat. All right. This last stretch that we're going to do is really going to actually be more of a stretch, less about working the muscle, right? So if this feels like it's too much, or I want you to be careful with this one, just, take your time. Even if you're not feeling it, so to speak, it is still doing something for you. So just let your response to how you feel at work be what your measure is of working. All right, so right foot is going to reach up to the sky here. We're going to cross our right ankle right on top of our left knee. I want you to, with your muscles, press your right knee toward the top of your mat. So instead of letting it come towards your body, it's pushing away from your body. Good. And then you're going to let this whole little figure 4 situation here fall to the left side of your mat. All right? So that means that right foot is now all the way on my left side. I'm getting a nice, delicious stretch through this, basically our abductors, the muscles that help to bring our hips away from our body, and for our hip flexors, the ones that help to support us when we're in seated positions. If this feels delicious and nice, you stay here. Maybe you also want to bring your arms to cactus arms. Maybe you want to turn your head to the right. Good. Pausing here for a couple of breaths. If this feels delicious, if this is wonderful, you can stay here for 15 breaths. That is your prerogative. If you'd like to take this to the next step, just maybe a little bit deeper, instead of having that right leg crossed, just lay that right leg on top of the left so that both knees are to the left side of the mat. Good. So it's like knees side to side, but with your legs together, it really increases how much stretch you're going to feel through the side of your body. So through those obliques, through those abductors of your hips. Good. Both knees come through center one at a time. And then we're going to reach the left leg up. We're going to cross left ankle on top of that right knee. We're going to pause here for a moment. Again, that left knee is pressing away from your body toward the top of your mat. And then you're going to let that whole complex relax to this side. Good. Trying here to breathe into any tension that you might feel, any stretch that you might feel, noticing it, bringing your attention there, saying that you see it or you feel it, and giving it what it needs. A little time, a little attention, a little love. Option to take this side to the next step if that feels right and good. To stack that left knee right on top of your right. Ankles come together. Beautiful. Coming back through center. Separate your feet so that they're mat distance apart, and now let yourself windshield wiper back and forth, Get a little bit more movement into your body, into your hips after we did a nice slow down there. And then go ahead and draw your knees into your chest. Chin comes to your chest, and rock and roll yourself a couple of times back and forth, getting a nice little massage through your spine as you make your way back up to a seated position. I'm gonna curl towards you. So that's that. Okay, so about 20 minutes. So first, also, I didn't apologize for doing this in the bathroom because this bathroom is ginormous and has the best Wi-Fi signal. So I'm just living my best life up here. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or you need anything. I would try to do these slowly. I would say take it easy at first, then give it a couple days to see how you feel. Many times, the first times that we're doing something, it can be 48 hours to 72 hours before we feel what's called delayed onset muscle soreness. And if you have any of that, you just want to make sure that you're respecting it and working through it. Hydrating, gentle stretching, doing what you can do in terms of movement, but not pushing it too hard. So yeah. Let me know if you have questions. I'm sure you will. And don't forget to send me pictures of your desk setup. And whenever you want to meet again, hit me up. Thanks, Emma.